I wanted to continue discussing this notion of physical world and the laws and um, rules that govern the supposedly objective external world. And I just want to tell a story, really, about a good friend of mine. Um, has a little niece, and she's about 3.5, I think. And they were at the beach the other day, and the 3-year old, asked, "What what is it that holds together the water and the shore? Why do they stick together?" And my friend said, "Well, it's gravity, and it's this force that matter has, and when matter comes together into these huge globs, like as big as the Earth, well, then it becomes a very strong force, and it sucks the water down onto the ground, and it makes it stick." And we have all these equations and scientific propositions that describe what gravity really is, what it really is. And I was thinking, well, look at the way that this child sees and understands gravity. Gravity is what makes things stick together. It brings things together. It allows creation to occur. And in that sense, gravity is like love. Gravity is the force that brings what would otherwise be repellent um, bodies together. It builds things by making discrete objects attracted to one another. So it brings everything together, and that's what leads to creation, this coming togetherness. Just like sex, a male and a female come together and they create something new. And gravity is this force that brings them together. Um, but science says, oh, get off your crazy mystical horse and come back to reality, because gravity is just, it's a dead physical law. It's not love. You know, love is love is an idea. Love has nothing to do with the objective world, and that just seems silly to me. What do you mean? Love is what makes the whole world mean anything. And I think this is what's so important about taking these higher level properties that the emergence people like Hofstadter want to pay attention to them and say, look, this is a domain of existence that is human. It's what makes us human. It's what separates us from animals and from rocks. And so we have to value it, sure, but we have to also understand that ultimately it's all a joke. It's all a dream. None of it matters beyond our own subjective experience. And that word subjective, well, some people would take great pride in saying, my experience is subjective, and I exist as an individual, and no one else can encroach upon my ability to be who I am, because I am a subjective being. I exist. While some of us may have that view of what it means for all of this cultural meaning, higher order thinking, this human existence to be subjective, when a scientist says that, he's trying to make it disappear. He's trying to say, that doesn't matter for my study. That doesn't matter for trying to figure out what's real and what's objective. What's subjective is sort of epiphenomenal. It arises out of the real world somehow, temporarily, sort of like a whirlpool in a stream. The whirlpool itself doesn't really know what it is. It doesn't have any inner experience. It's just this higher level emergent property that developed because of the complicated nature of the water rushing through the stream, and it's nothing, really. And, the funny thing is, enactivism doesn't really disagree. It just says that phenomenologically, our experience is not meaningless. It does not reduce to these causal laws that we think we have mapped out and solidified. I mean, what we have are some descriptions on a piece of paper, some formulas, some mathematical equations. That's not the world. That's not what exists. That's just as much a description, just as human and subjective as poetry and literature and film and music. I mean, it's just another kind of art. Science is an art. Science is an art of very accurate description, but it is still an art. And I think if we can remember that and recognize that and explore that notion in science, stop trying to figure out what the external world is and start trying to figure out how can we get our scientific descriptions to line up with our experience, not to line up with the objective world in itself that's totally indifferent to everything we do, but to our experience. Because a scientific fact is only relevant and meaningful if it has meaning to us, to my experience. So science needs to be phenomenologically brought up to speed with what's really going on in this life, in this human existence, because it seems like traditional science is trying to get rid of human existence and say we don't have to worry about that. If we can just map out the physical world enough and get the language to picture the physical state of affairs accurately, then we can get rid of all these high horse notions of religion and God and love and just get with the program and focus on what's real and what's objective and stop trying to regress to childhood imaginary fantasies and whatnot. And I think that is just that's silly. Science needs to realize that it's not God. The material world replaced God when the Enlightenment swept through Europe. This notion of an objective external truth that's indifferent to human beings, that became God. And we became the ants that have to build up that external world, because that's just the duty of science. It's our duty to explain everything as if we ever could explain it all, because to explain it means to lay it out flat on a piece of paper, put it into words, and that's so silly, because the objective world, if it ever existed, it's never going to be equivalent to this list of descriptions that we've put into a textbook. Those are, I mean, just take deconstruction into account for 1 second and realize that any description, any text, any formula, I don't care if it's math or English, it's not stable. It's always changing, and those words don't have stable meanings, So that's not, you can't describe the objective world. If it existed, you can't do it. So, yeah. Thanks for listening.